Got a call to replace a bathroom sink drain. Homeowner said it was slow draining. Looked a bit rough. When I got under there, the old trap was corroded, the fittings were finished, and the waste pipe needed a clean cut to start fresh. First thing, old drain flange comes out. Knife around the edge, break the old putty seal, wiggle the body free from below. Then I clean that ceramic hole completely. Any grime left behind and the new seal won't sit right. Leaks guaranteed. New chrome flange goes in with a solid bead of silicone underneath. Brass nut and washer tightened from below. Excess silicone wiped clean inside the sink. Clean finish, watertight seal. Now, the wall pipe. Ratcheting cutter gives a straight, clean slice every time. Solvent cement goes on. That's a permanent chemical bond. No threading, no clamps. Once it's glued, it's locked. Bottle trap gets dry fitted first. Mark it, cut it to exact length, glue the elbow, then final assembly. Slip nuts hand tightened, rubber. Washers compressing into a perfect seal. Last step, click-clack plug. Press it down, pops right back up. Smooth. Old corroded mess out. Clean white PVC in. Done properly, this system won't give them trouble for years.
Why does nobody install a door like this? This carpenter is using a technique that guarantees a perfect fit, consistent gaps, and a clean finish, without a single shim. He starts by nailing scrap wood to the hinge side of the opening. Pieces already sitting on the floor. A long level. One check. Perfect plumb surface. Why? Because if the wall isn't straight, the door never will be. Most carpenters skip this step. They put the door in first and spend hours fighting it. He spent 30 seconds on the wall and never had to fight anything. Next, he measures the wall thickness. The jamb is too wide, one cut on the circular saw. Now it's flush with the drywall on both sides. Skip this step. Your trim will never sit flat. Now here's the genius part. The brackets. Instead of nailing through the front of the frame, he screws metal brackets in from behind. No nail holes, no putty, no paint touch-up. One scrap spacer on the handle side, guaranteeing the gap is identical from top to bottom. If that gap is too tight, the door rubs. Too wide, the latch won't catch. His latch? First try. Total extra cost? $0. That wood was already in the trash. Seriously, why don't we install doors like this?
Got a call from a homeowner. Toilet leaking at the base, slight smell in the bathroom, and they figured it was probably nothing serious. It wasn't nothing. I shut off the supply line, drained the bowl completely, pulled the bolts, and lifted the toilet. And right there, old wax ring smashed flat, cracked, dried out, completely done. That wax ring is the only thing standing between your bathroom and raw sewer gas pushing back up into your home. This one gave up a long time ago. Step 1. Every single bit of that old wax comes off. Putty knife. Full scrape. No rushing. Even a small piece left behind and the new ring won't sit flush. The seal fails and the leak comes right back. Then I spray the flange with super clean and wipe it completely dry. Clean flat surface is everything on this repair. New T-bolts go in with plastic washers to hold them upright. New wax ring with a horn funnel sets on the flange. That funnel guides waste straight into the pipe for a tighter, more reliable seal. Toilet goes back down. Holes lined up. Press it firm. Wax compresses fully. No movement. No smell. No leak. Simple fix. But ignored long enough, this turns into rotted subfloor and a bill 10 times bigger.
Why does nobody apply self-leveling underlayment like this in the United States? He starts by sealing the perimeter with spray foam around the walls and pipes. Self-leveler is extremely liquid. If there are any gaps, it will leak into the room below. The foam acts as a dam to keep the mixture contained. Next, he pours purple primer onto the floor and spreads it with a paint roller. That primer does two things. It bonds the new cement to the old subfloor and prevents the subfloor from sucking moisture out too quickly, which would cause cracking. Now here's the genius part, the mixing ratio. He mixes bags of self-leveler powder with water using a high-speed drill and paddle, mixing until it's lump-free with the consistency of a milkshake. He pours the mixture onto the floor. Gravity naturally pulls it into low spots and depressions, filling them until the surface is level. He uses a gauge rake to push material into corners and pop air bubbles trapped in the mix. Once it dries in 24 hours, you have a rock-hard, perfectly flat surface, essential for modern flooring. Seriously, why don't we apply self-leveler like this in the US? Before the snow hits, is your stair railing solid enough to save you from a fall? Because when those steps ice over, a wobbly railing could be the difference between a safe grip and a trip to the ER. This crew is installing a floor-to-ceiling spindle wall, and the technique guarantees guarantees perfectly vertical pipes, exact spacing, and a rock-solid finish by assembling everything on the ground first. They clamp a header board to the ceiling joists, acting as the top anchor. A laser level transfers the angle of the stairs up to the ceiling, ensuring the pipes stand perfectly vertical. They use a template to mark every hole, guaranteeing exact spacing without measuring 20 times. They bore receiving holes in the ceiling header and match them perfectly on the bottom plate, then cut hollow metal tubing to size, accounting for the stair angle so they fit flush. Now here's the genius part, the ground assembly. Instead of installing them one by one, they hammer all 20 spindles into the bottom, board on the floor first. Then they lift the entire assembly as one massive unit, sliding the tops into the ceiling holes and dropping the bottom flush onto the treads. Because the span is long, the pipes have some flex, so they add horizontal connector brackets that lock the spindles together, turning individual pipes into a solid structural wall. The shake test: rock solid. Don't wait for black ice to find out your railing can't hold you.
One cracked board in the middle of your floor. Most people think the whole room has to come up. It doesn't. He draws a line down the center of the damaged board, then triangles at each end. These are relief cuts, and they are the entire secret to this repair. Oscillating multi-tool runs along every line. Center comes out first. That single move releases all pressure on the locking edges. Every healthy board around it stays completely untouched. Pry bar goes in, pieces lift out clean, subfloor gets vacuumed down to nothing. One grain of dust left behind and the new board will never sit flat. Now the step nobody talks about. The bottom lip of the groove gets shaved completely off. Without that modification, the board cannot physically drop into a finished floor. That one cut converts it from click lock to drop in. Tight bond glue onto the surrounding edges and the subfloor. Tongue side slides in first. Modified groove side drops flat. Rubber mallet taps it flush. He runs his hand across the seam. Smooth. Level. Invisible. No ridge. No gap. No sign anything was ever wrong. Just a floor that looks like it was never touched.
Why does nobody build partition walls like this in the United States? This builder is dividing a large room in two using a metal stud framing system, and the technique guarantees a perfectly straight wall, clean doorway opening, and a moisture-resistant finish, faster than traditional timber framing. He starts by anchoring a metal U-track vertically to the existing wallicing a hammer drill bored straight into the masonry. That establishes the starting point of the entire wall. He measures and cuts the floor track with a cordless angle grinder, then secures it to the tile. That track dictates exactly where the wall will stand. He inserts vertical C-studs into the floor and ceiling tracks, twisting them into position to form the structural skeleton. Now, here's the genius part, the stud crimper. Instead of screwing each stud to the top track, he uses specialized pliers that punch through both layers of metal simultaneously, locking them together in one squeeze, faster than screwing, and the metal stays perfectly flat so the drywall sits flush. He frames the doorway with a horizontal header between two studs, then lifts full sheets of green, moisture-resistant drywall and drives them home with a screw gun. For the door edge, he scores the gypsum board with a utility knife and snaps it clean, creating a sharp, precise edge against the door frame. Seriously, why don't we build partition walls like this in the US?
This piece looks completely wrong, but it's actually the secret behind every modern skirted toilet installation. Because the sides of this toilet are perfectly smooth, the mounting bolts are completely hidden. So instead of bolting through the base like a standard toilet, this trapway adapter gets anchored to the floor first. And yes, drilling directly into tile is always a sweaty palm moment. One wrong move and that tile cracks straight through. Once the adapter is locked down solid, the foam gasket goes directly onto the ceramic horn, not the floor. That single change gives you a far more precise seal than any wax ring ever could. Now comes the hardest part, the blind drop. You're lifting a 90-pound porcelain bowl and lining up the horn over that adapter without being able to see either one. When it seats correctly, you feel it. Since you can't reach underneath the skirted base, the bowl locks in from the sides through hidden access pockets. Drive the screws in, pop the cover, caps on, and every single piece of mounting hardware completely disappears. Tank gasket seats next, bolts tighten evenly from underneath, water supply connects, and the tank fills clean. Zero leaks, solid flush. And that slow close seat, absolute perfection. Would you ever go back to a standard toilet after seeing this?
Why does no one install tiles like this in Germany? This guy is doing something that most tilers are too scared to try. He is working with giant green onyx porcelain slabs, 8 feet tall, razor thin, and incredibly expensive. One wrong move and it shatters. First, he trowels the wall and applies adhesive to the back of the slab. No air pockets allowed, not a single one. Then he lifts the entire panel with vacuum suction cups. 2 men, 1 giant slab, 0 margin for error. But now comes the genius part. He grinds the edges at a perfect 45-degree angle. No ugly plastic trim, no visible joints. The veins of the stone flow around the corner like one solid block of natural rock. Then he fills the tiny gap with colored epoxy. He matches it exactly to the vein of the stone. Watch what happens when he peels the tape. The corner is invisible, completely seamless, stronger than the stone itself. He lines up every vein from the wall to the floor to the vanity. The result looks like a jewelry box, not a bathroom. Why are we still using normal tiles?
Why do most plumbers charge an extra $200 just to install a skirted toilet? Watch what makes this installation completely different. Instead of bolting the toilet straight to the floor, they first install this special trapway adapter. Because the sides of a skirted toilet are completely smooth, you can't reach the bolts later. So this adapter gets anchored into the floor first, creating a hidden mounting system. Here's the clever part. Most people slap the wax ring on the floor, but pros stick it directly to the toilet horn for perfect alignment. Then they lower the entire toilet onto that pre-installed adapter. No guesswork, no shifting. Now comes the magic. See those side access holes? A long screw gets driven through there, locking the bowl to the adapter from the inside. One quick pass with an impact driver, pop on the cover cap, and the mounting hardware completely disappears. No ugly bolt caps sitting on your bathroom floor. Tank goes on next, even pressure on both bolts so the porcelain doesn't crack. Flush test, check for leaks. And that slow close seat? Pure satisfaction. So here's the question. Would you pay extra for a toilet that hides all its hardware?
The forest is cold and quiet, frost coating every branch, and a hollow log waits, dormant, yet full of possibility. I start by walking to the log with my tools, feeling the crunch of frozen leaves underfoot. The first step is creating a frame. Using a Scotch-eyed auger, I drill directly into the hardwood, anchoring the future structure firmly into the log itself. Soft ground won't hold. This wood must bear weight and resist the wind. Next, green saplings are selected. They are alive, flexible, and resilient. Dry wood would snap the moment I try to bend it. I fit each sapling into the drilled holes, bending carefully to form arches that will become the ribs of the tunnel. Once the vertical ribs are set, it starts to resemble a skeleton, but a tunnel lets wind right through. That's where weaving comes in. I gather thin, pliable branches, weaving them horizontally through the vertical ribs like a giant basket. The over-under pattern locks the frame in place without nails. Each pass tightens the tension, transforming a flimsy skeleton into solid walls. From above, it looks chaotic. Up close, every weave counts. I step back, the height grows, the curves smooth into natural arches. The wind begins to die against the emerging structure. By the end of this sequence, the shelter's skeleton is set, arches in place, walls taking form. The log, once empty, is now a frame ready to hold more. More protection, more insulation, and the promise of warmth. The forest seems to pause, waiting to see what comes next.
If you want a floating corner niche that actually lasts, start with a solid mortar bed. I troweled a generous layer into the recessed corner, making sure to fill every low spot. Then I tapped it with the handle of my trowel to remove air pockets. No voids means a stronger, lasting base. Next, for the shelves, skip pre-made pieces. I measured a matching floor tile, marked it at a precise 45-degree angle with a speed square, and double-checked the lines. Accuracy here makes installation seamless. I cut along the line with a continuous rim blade on my angle grinder. Sparks fly, the edge gets perfectly straight, and then I polished it with a grinding pad until it was smooth to the touch. No sharp corners, no chips, just buttery edges. Back butter the triangular shelf with mortar. Then press it firmly into the corner. Make sure it sits tight against both walls. The fit has to be exact for stability. Immediately install the wall tile above it to lock the shelf in place. If it starts sagging, wedges or spacers hold it level while the adhesive cures. Click them in, adjust slightly, done. Repeat for the top shelf, maintaining alignment with the shower floor for a uniform, seamless look. Step back and admire. Clean lines, durable structure, plenty of storage. Tap it, solid thud. That's a perfect floating corner niche. Would you put this in your shower?
He brought rocks inside his bedroom. This man did something most people would call absolutely insane, turning massive boulders into bedroom furniture. He starts by unloading huge river rocks from his truck using a ramp. These aren't decorative pebbles. These are legitimate heavy stones that most people wouldn't even think about moving indoors. First, he uses an angle grinder with a diamond blade to flatten the bottom of each rock so it sits stable on the floor without rolling. Then comes the genius part. He marks a line on top, grinds deep parallel cuts into the stone, and uses a hammer and chisel to chip away a flat notch where the bed frame will rest. Each rock takes about 20 minutes to prepare, and he rinses off all the dust afterward. Meanwhile, he's building a sleek walnut wood frame using mismatched boards, cutting them into 3-inch rails with a circular saw and straight edge guide. He drills hidden pocket holes, glues the joints, and screws everything together so no hardware shows. After sanding and finishing the wood, he mounts a heavy-duty steel ledge directly into wall studs. The back of the bed frame rests on this steel support, while the front sits perfectly into those notched boulders. He adds plywood slats, installs a low-profile walnut headboard with hidden storage, and makes the bed. The final result is a floating bed supported by architecture on one side and raw nature on the other. Absolutely unforgettable craftsmanship. Why don't more roofers install ridge vents like this in the United States? This professional roofer is installing a ridge vent system at the peak of the roof, and this is critical for preventing mold and keeping the house cool. He lines up a section of black plastic ridge vent. These pieces have male and female ends that snap together to create a seamless, watertight line along the roof's peak. He uses a roofing hammer to drive long nails into the pre-marked holes on the vent. These nails must go through the thick plastic and into the wooden roof deck below. He uses a utility knife to trim the plastic vent at the end of the roofline for a perfect fit. The slots on the side of the black plastic are the actual vents. They allow hot air out but stop rain and bugs from getting in. Now he covers it with ridge cap shingles. These are specially designed to bend over the peak of the roof. He places the first shingle directly on top of the plastic vent and nails it on both sides. He overlaps the next shingle to cover the nail heads. This is essential for waterproofing. The final result hides the black plastic completely while allowing air to escape through the sides.